This is Dr. John Grazel, and this video is to give you a synoptic understanding of a document on which the Baha'i Chair for World Peace at the University of Maryland was actually founded, but also a document that represents a clarion call that deserves your attention if you haven't already been made aware of it. It's called The Promise of World Peace, and it was issued by the Universal House of Justice of the Baha'i Faith. It was issued as a letter to the world, and its purposes was not to lay out a prescription for world peace, but to make people aware of just how peace was at hand. But we ourselves had to grab it to actually mold it into that which could serve us both immediately and in the long term, informing a new type of world civilization. And a quick generalization of its key messages. The first message is precisely that it wanted to make people aware that the true peace that people have been searching and all societies search for actually is at hand. We actually have the capacities. The moment has come. The globe is one. But that to do that, to achieve that peace, there's a need to really revisit the fundamental assumptions that have presented the historical predicaments that have given man so much war rather than peace, so much conflict rather than cooperation, that have actually destroyed in the many cases where peace actually did flourish. Now, as I said, it is not a prescription, but it does make clear that to do this, we have to look at man in his totality, that we have to look at humanity in its totality. And to do this, religion is absolutely an essential element of that. In contrast to the absolutely overpowering secular materialistic orientation that seems to so dominate us, a recognition of the critical role of religion is key to grabbing the opportunity for the great peace that actually is available to us, and has been recognized by other thinkers in their study of world history. Given that reality, humanity now has to realize that it is responsible for the fact that there is not peace. And the corollary of the necessity of realizing that religion is a key to the solution is to realizing how much so many of us have perverted and confused the role and understanding of religion, that has not only not aided the situation, but has created the perception that religion very often is more a problem than a solution. And the way this has happened is that, people have, among other things, actually recognized the importance of religion, but keep trying to invent their own, to come up with substantive, alternative philosophies, values, moral systems that are in the creations of their own mind and very often exemplifications of man's creativity, but actually have produced the very doctrines that are at the base of the ills we face today. How they produce ideologies that actually have created horrors in the name of the search for utopia, have created dystopia, horrors that have actually been one of the outstanding features of the 20th century. It is clear, the message tries to make clear, that the time has come to realize that the materialistic approach is not sufficient. It has not answered the real call for what has to be done to respond to the agonizing problems that face us. These problems are many, but they include a few key set ones for certain, and that includes, to begin with, the emancipation of women, because we're talking about half the world, and then the end of racism, which is another way of totally actually dehumanizing large segments of humanity. It also tried to make clear the message that though much is happening, merely signing treaties and agreements is not an end to war. True peace involves addressing issues that we often don't associate with peace because we're so tied to interpreting peace as the end of war and not as a positive process. In contrast, what they say is that the key is to peace is pragmatic solutions, which are absolutely necessary, have to be put into the context of principle. And that among those principles has to be the acceptance of the oneness of mankind. It has to be the fundamental prerequisite for reorganizing the world. Without that, we are going to be continuously engaged in increasing anarchistic situations, and we will never actually even see the light at the end of the tunnel, let alone be able to march towards it. Why haven't we? What's holding us back? They also try to point out that the major impediment is actually what we call unfettered national sovereignty, that a concept of sovereignty that served for hundreds of years is now become an impediment for going beyond borders and national identities to a greater recognition of the future of the commonwealth of all nations, not the abolition necessary of nations, but the coming together of nations and people in one family. How do we do that? Well, the letter was issued precisely to call for an all-embracing meeting of the peoples of the world, precisely for this purpose. There are many meetings we have in the world for many purposes to end this problem, address that problem, but this call was that we have to actually address how to go beyond our unfettered nationalism and really begin to establish those fundamental principles in which we're going to put our pragmatic solutions. Now, to do this, it calls for a general consultation, not just a gathering to discuss it, but actually a genuine union of the nations of the world. Now, this is a point that is important because it doesn't say that you don't have a United Nations now. That's an organization, but it's not a union of the nation of the world. And it doesn't say one world government, one nation, but it does say we now have to come to establish a new form of true unity, and that it can only be done if the leaders of the world actually take the opportunity to convoke this type of gathering for this purpose. And it does put the obligations on the leaders of the world. Now, the quality of those leaders are very much tied to how they're chosen and maybe those who choose them. But in the end, these leaders have to be the ones who come together to make this next step, which is to call for a true unification of the world in the sense of one family. If we can do that, will come an understanding that it is not just about one family, but it is about creating a situation where we once more can return to actually focusing on those aspects that make humanity unique. And those are the aspects of dignity, of trustworthiness, of forbearance, of mercy, of compassion, of kindness, of how we relate to each other. That actually is what makes us humanity. And that the time has come to realize this, to realize it on a global level, to realize it with a unity of conscience, to realize that it is the key to a global peace, and to realize that achieving it is the primal purpose and most challenging and immediate need and opportunity for the leaders of the world. And it is in their hands now to come together and make it happen.